Glad to be here. And I'm also glad to be here in the little theater. I thought I'd get some whoops for that. No? Okay. I've gotten to do a few things in the little theater here. A few years ago, we did a Edgar Allan Poe celebration reading in here. Remember that? No. Okay. You do. Yeah. My wife and I both read Edgar Allan Poe poems while we were here. And last semester, we did our film society here in this very room also, where we watched films about World War II. And I began to realize as I was thinking about the little theater that I've never done anything in the little theater that did not involve death. I mean, every Edgar Allan Poe poem is about a dead woman, and if you're lucky, a dead cat, right? And then so in the World War II movies, we got to see just people being carted out over and over again. So I thought, gosh, if I'm going to read in the little theater, I better read about death. Because I love this place, but I want to die when I'm in it. So I'm going to read some poems about Harry Houdini and how he died. We all know who Houdini is, right? Okay, there's nods. All right. Good. Well, and then I won't introduce him, because you've all just already said you know him. And do we know how he died? Don't say it if you do. But what I've done is I've come up with a lot of poems that are all about different ways Houdini could have died. And one of the poems that I'm going to read here is how it actually includes Houdini's actual death. But you don't need to know that. But these are a lot of different ways that Houdini could have died. It's kind of making a myth of this guy and the weirdness of who he is. And I'll read a handful of these. And the first one is called How Houdini Died. He was walking across with his friend, the armless Swedish comedian. The armless Swede told a joke, and the magician laughed harder than he himself expected. Oh, the cough drop, the magician thought, as he struggled against the drop that clamped his throat. He pressed himself against the park bench and wished the Swede had arms. Houdini didn't think so. This next one is called How Houdini Died. Pick up on that. The dog had no intentions beyond affection, but when it leapt toward the magician and knocked his head against the bookshelf, hitting backwards into the candle, setting the curtains ablaze, the dog could do nothing but lick the man's face, attempting to wake him, while the flames rose higher around them both. The dog died. You guys still laughing at that? Okay. This one's called How Houdini Died. Waiting. They mourned his body, but he wasn't dead yet. They thought he was dead, but he just lay perfectly still through the funeral, waiting for that perfect moment. Waiting. 2,000 mourners attended, and he was surprised by the love, and he wanted to surprise the crowd in a way that was deserving of that love. So he kept waiting for the right moment to leap up, extend his arms, and smile, the ultimate illusion. But ever the showman, he kept waiting. And when the coffin was sealed, dropped into the ground, he kept thinking, any moment now, they'll get the surprise they will never forget. This next one is a haiku, or as I like to call haiku that I've written, my coup. You can use that if you ever want to. How Houdini Died. He got himself punched right there square in the stomach. Dumb son of a bitch. I like this part of the crowd. How Houdini Died. The 137-year-old illusionist sits quietly in first class and thinks of the first time he arrived in New York, young and wide-eyed. But at this moment, he hears behind him screaming. He doesn't need to look. Men who pray with guns, while men and women and children cry. How Houdini Died. I got two more of these. I really have more than these, sadly, but we'll stop with these next two. How Houdini Died. Swallowing swords. These days, who doesn't swallow swords? But he needed an angle, a new direction, and he thought of doing something that nobody else had done. Swallowing a sword while inserting another sword elsewhere in the body. When he rehearsed, the act worked beautifully, but on stage, he collapsed to the gasps and cries of the audience, a motionless, rotisserie magician. One more. How Houdini Died. was going to rename this one, but this title seemed appropriate. It didn't take long on the boat for the dysentery to confront the young man's mortality. So many ideas, so many dreams. To capture America's imagination would be his greatest illusion. But all he could do now was crap himself silly. He was well aware it would kill him, so before he died, in between his internal explosions, he found a young man of similar age and appearance and handed this young man a notebook, his notebook. Inside, the dying, aspiring magician said, "Is every idea I've ever had. Use it. Be what I could not be." And as the dying boy ran off, the other young man opened the notebook, and the first two words he read were Harry Houdini.